So in our last video, we were left with a decision to make. We were in Castletownbere, County Cork, and we were trying to decide whether to continue on around the Ring of Beara or to cut across the peninsula and head back on the northern edge of the peninsula to Killarney, which is where we were spending the night. Well, we're not fans of driving after dark with driving on the wrong side of the roads being narrow and kind of windy, so we decided we would probably be better to drive across the peninsula. And we ended up in?
We ended up in what might arguably be called the most colorful town in Ireland.
I think you could make an argument for that.
It wasn't very far from Castletownbere, maybe 8 kilometers or so. It was the town of Eyeries.
And it was very hilly in Ieries, but it was beautiful. Such bright colors.
It was stunning.
It really was. We had talked about, we had been to Kinsale just a day or two before, and it was very bright and colorful. But Eyeries is much smaller than Kinsale. I think per square foot, it has more color than Kinsale.
Maybe, but it was quite amazing. I was pretty impressed with all the colors.
It was very striking.
Passed by.
Eyeries is also known for a family festival that they have every July. It lasts 3 days, and they have a ton of things for people to do. I guess people come from all over Ireland. They have live music, Irish dancing, there's a marketplace, arts and crafts, there's food. They have a sheepdog trial and a fundraising walk for brain tumor research. They also have a best dressed dog competition.
Sure sounds like a lot of festivals around, small town festivals.
It does. It sounds very much like the kind of things we do here in the Midwest.
Very fun.
We continued on toward Lara and along the Kenmare Bay. Now when we passed Ardgroom, or we're getting close to Ardgroom, we noticed these black cords across the bay in lines with these dark dots on them.
It's a symmetrical pattern.
It was, and we were very curious about what it was because we didn't know for sure. So once we got home, we had to do some research on that.
Well, we speculated.
We did, and I think you thought it might have been oyster farming?
Yes.
But once we started looking online and looking at photographs and kind of Googling Ardgroom, and
Kenmare.
we discovered that that was mussel farming, and that they're well known for their mussels there in Ardgroom. That's a very vital industry.
Aquaculture is a big thing in Ireland as well.
It is. We were amazed at the scale of it.
It made you take notice and try to figure out what it was.
Just after Ardgroom, we crossed the line into County Kerry, and we were headed toward Kenmare.
And it was quite busy. Traffic was backed up and people were out on the street. So our first goal was to find a parking space and get around and check out the town for a little while.
The town was very pretty, and there's a reason the town is very pretty.
Yeah, in Ireland they have something called the Tidy Town competition. Kenmare has been entered in the Tidy Town competition for a number of years and is a previous winner. In fact, they've won twice in their categories, and they were runner-up twice as well. And this is a competition that started in 1958 to help beautify and reinvigorate small towns and villages and larger towns.
And I think Kenmare has won the overall competition once and has won in their category once.
Yes.
We had mentioned Kinsale earlier when we were talking about Eyeries being very colorful. One of the reasons I understand why Kinsale is so colorful is that is part of their plan for their Tidy Town competition. They have to have a 5-year plan for improving the town, which I think is great.
Great idea.
I thought so too.
Notes of interest about Kenmare. Kenmare is mentioned in the Star Trek Enterprise series in an episode called Breaking the Ice.
Another thing that if you're a Harry Potter fan, in Harry Potter fandom on video games, apparently there's been a mention of European Quidditch teams, and apparently the Kenmare Kestrels are a Quidditch team in this league. It was also a name that was picked up by a local basketball league, also has the Kenmare Kestrels. But if you were actually on the Quidditch team and you won your tourney, you would have to go out for a Butterbeer.
Where would they go?
Well, they could try the bar that we went to, which was O'Connor's Bar. Although I have to say I did not see Butterbeer listed on the menu there.
I did not.
No. We did have a pint at O'Connor's Bar. What did you think of O'Connor's?
It was a fine little place. We sat down, and on our right was an older gentleman, and on the left was a younger gentleman. They started chatting back and forth, and we found that the older gentleman was a hiker.
And he led hiking groups, actually.
And they had hiked that day or 2 days, I'm not sure, from Killarney to Kenmare.
Yes.
And
yes.
He looked none the worse for wear.
And he was not a spring chicken, as someone has pointed out that we are not spring chickens. He was older than we were, in fact.
Yes.
And looked to be in very good shape.
Yes. We had a good conversation with him. A younger gentleman at the end of the bar was he and his wife and their toddler. They were in town visiting. In fact, the wife and the toddler ended up joining him at O'Connor's, and we got to meet them and make faces at the
baby.
At the baby on our way out.
Yeah, they were lovely people. So then we were back on the road, and at that point we were on the Ring of Kerry. Now, the Ring of Kerry is a picturesque route that circles the Iveragh Peninsula in County Kerry. It's 111 miles or 179 kilometers long, and it includes amazing beaches, beautiful mountains, in fact, some of the tallest mountains in Ireland, lakes, rivers, waterfall, castles, and grand houses. So pretty much everything you could want to see in Ireland in one circular route a little over 100 miles long. So the Ring of Kerry is an iconic drive, along with a number of other drives in Ireland. Our first trip to Ireland, we drove in the north sections of the Wild Atlantic Way, the Causeway coastal route.
This trip we traveled on other parts of the Wild Atlantic Way, as well as the Ring of Beara and the Ring of Kerry.
So this made segments of 5 iconic road trips in Ireland, and arguably some of the most beautiful drives in the world.
They have been, all of them.
Chris, what did you think of the Ring of Beara? And we drove a little bit of the Ring of Kerry so far, but we'll be getting to more of that. What did you think of that?
I was actually surprised because in my head I had all these visions of little narrow roads on the Ring of Beara and the Ring of Kerry.
With like drop-offs.
Well, right, but a lot tighter conditions, and actually the roads were quite good. They were sufficiently wide, and there were plenty of pullovers if you wanted to stop and take a picture, although some of them could be a little crowded with parked cars, but... Sheep.
Oh, yeah.
That's the black sheep.
The black sheep of the family.
Yes. All right, we've driven on a lot of winding roads, but nothing like this yet. Having said that, there were 3 things that made me a lot more comfortable on this trip. The first one would be we had been to Ireland before, we had experience driving, and my confidence level was up quite a bit. And secondly, we had a smaller car this time, and with a smaller car, it was easier to handle and maneuver through the zigzags and tighter turns. And the third thing, we used Tripiamo, which is a subscription video program. And we actually did a review video on that, and if you want to watch that, it'll be up here somewhere.
We'll put a link in the description as well.
There you go. I rewatched that. The first time we saw it was after we returned from Ireland. The first time, and it reinforced a lot of what we learned driving the first time on the opposite side of the road from the U.S. And I watched it again before we left, and it just built up my confidence that much more. It reassured me about pulling over. If you've got a line of cars behind you, to pull over, let them go by. Everybody will be happy. You won't feel the pressure of the cars behind you. And then when we got into town, I knew more about the street markings, the lines on the street for parking. Some of the signs didn't translate like they would here. We understood that. it just built up my confidence, and I think it's a worthwhile thing to take a look at before you go to Ireland. And plus, they go to...
It's country specific. It's in Europe, so it's not just Ireland. You can also get any other country in Europe, and they'll show you what the road signs are. They'll tell you the rules of the road. There's a virtual driving experience where you see what it's like to drive there, and you see the scenery, and it's like you're behind the wheel. It's very reasonably priced, we felt.
It is, but worth checking out. It'll help.
And as we drove, we entered Killarney National Park. Killarney National Park was actually Ireland's first national park, opened in 1932. It is comprised of 26,000 acres, which is about 103 square kilometers. Among the things that we saw as we were driving through that part of Killarney National Park was a place called Ladies View. And that's at the lakes of Killarney. It's an overlook. And the reason it's called Ladies View was in 1861, Queen Victoria and her ladies-in-waiting visited the area. And this was one of her ladies-in-waiting's favorite areas to see. We did notice going through the park that it got quite crowded. There were a lot of tour buses. There was a tunnel where there was only one lane going through the tunnel, and traffic was backed up on both sides of the tunnel. So you kind of have to pack your patience going through Killarney National Park. And this was in the off-season, in fact, so it was still quite busy. There are a lot of things to see in that area, though, so it's easy to see why it was so crowded. There is Muckross House and Gardens, which is a 19th century house and garden where Queen Victoria actually stayed when she visited this area, and you can actually see the room she stayed in. Queen Victoria slept here. They have kept it to the state that it was in when she was there. Also, Torque Waterfall is right there. There is Muckross Abbey. There are a number of things to see in that area. Unfortunately, we had a room to check into at a certain time. And again, as we mentioned, we don't like to be driving after dark, especially in a lot of traffic on the wrong side of the road. So we did not stop to see a lot of that stuff this time. And we'll be addressing advantages and disadvantages of driving yourself versus taking a motor coach tour in a future video, because that was something that we kind of discussed after this trip.
So we pulled into Killarney at last. I think it was around 5, little after 5 p.m. Killarney town, as a matter of fact. And there was lots of traffic. A lot of tour buses, a lot of vans, a lot of them, emptying out, parking in front of hotels and larger B&Bs and such. So it's 5 p.m. on a Wednesday night, and the parking situation was pretty rough as well.
We did find a parking lot, though, about a block and a half away. However, during business hours, you had to pay to stay in the parking lot. After 6, you didn't have to pay. And I think before 8 a.m. you didn't have to pay. So unfortunately, we were kind of just over the line on both of those. So we had to pay to park and then schlep our luggage over cobblestones a block and a half to where we were staying. And then the next morning, I had to go back and pay parking before we checked out so that
you could eat breakfast.
Yes, and we wouldn't get a ticket. But the place we were staying was a room over an Irish pub called Tatler Jacks. And we thought it would be a unique experience to stay in a room over a pub. Now, we were kind of glad that it was a weekday evening that we were staying. I'm not sure we would have wanted to stay over a pub on a Friday night or a Saturday night. But for a Wednesday, I think it was okay. And the price was very reasonable.
It was very reasonable.
Considering what you got, and you were right in the middle of everything, basically.
Right.
So we got to Tatler Jacks, we went into the bar, and you actually check in with the bartender at the bar. He went and got our key for us and gave us a key to a separate entrance to the stairway that goes up above the bar for the rooms. I thought the room was nice.
It was a great room. It wasn't a suite, but we knew that going in, and honestly, it was a little bit bigger than we expected, or at least I expected.
Yeah, it was bigger than some rooms we had stayed in on our trip already.
And it was well appointed, clean. I thought it was a great deal.
Yes, and it overlooked Plunkett Street. It was a very nice room and very reasonably priced. It included breakfast the next morning, so we'll talk about that in a minute.
Plus.
Yep. So once we got checked in and settled in our room, we decided we would walk around town a little bit and see a bit of Killarney town.
Killarney there was a lot going on restaurant-wise. There didn't appear to be a lot of people out on the street. Maybe the weather was a little...
Yeah, it was a little rainy, kind of drizzly.
Yeah, but it was a Wednesday night, so it wasn't as busy as we thought it would be.
A lot of the places were hotel restaurants, and there were a lot of the tour buses staying there, and so they were very busy.
Yes.
And that was not the experience we were wanting that night.
No, we wanted something smaller, a little different cuisine.
I Googled restaurants in Killarney, and we were looking for kind of a place that was a favorite of locals, that was smaller. And this place was said to have some of the best Asian cuisine in Killarney. And so we ended up at Khao Asian Street Food, which was on High Street. It was a very charming place, not expensive.
We had a booth.
Small. We did. We had a booth. It was small, Asian decor. The staff was very nice.
Great staff.
We had very good service.
I ordered chicken satay and a peanut dipping sauce. And then I had for my entree a dish of pho, which was amazing.
It was a large bowl.
A big bowl. Just what I needed to. And a glass or two of wine.
For my appetizer, I had a crispy sweet potato salad, which I have never seen anywhere else. And in fact, I got out my phone and took notes on what was in it so that I could try to find a recipe for it. But it was delicious. And with that, I had yellow fish curry. And to drink, I had a ginger beer, because I like ginger-flavored beverages, especially with Asian food.
Right.
I think it mixes well. And it was very reasonably priced.
Yeah, for the food, it was a total of 57 euros. And then, of course, tip on top of that.
That included our drink, though.
But it did include drinks.
Yeah.
I got a look from our server because I had eaten all the chicken satay and I finished like 98% of my bowl of pho. And the server came back and looked at me and he says, I've never seen anybody eat an appetizer and almost a whole bowl of that before.
And he's so skinny. Where does he put it?
I was hungry that evening. It was good. It was very good.
Then we walked back to Tatler Jacks, and we had a nightcap at the bar and sat for a little bit. There was live music.
Great guitarist, solo guitarist.
He did both trad Irish music and he did some contemporary music. He had a good voice and sang a really nice assortment of things.
It was a real shame there weren't more people. I had stepped outside to check the weather and another American tourist had come up and said, what kind of music are they playing in there? And I said, well, it's a mix of trad and contemporary rock or contemporary pop music. And she goes, oh, no, we don't want to hear that. We want to go hear the trad music down here. And it's like, it's too bad because you're missing a really talented singer.
Yeah, he was very good. And his guitar playing was excellent, too.
Yes, it was.
So we headed to bed upstairs. Didn't have far to go to bed after our nightcap, did we?
No.
Just up the stairs and around the corner. And the next morning, I went out and fed the parking meter. And we had breakfast downstairs in the bar. And the bar is also open to the public for breakfast, not just to people who are staying there. They had both a cold breakfast buffet and they had hot items that you could order off the menu. And so we had a really nice breakfast and talked with a couple that was seated next to us.
I believe he was German and his wife was Dutch. It always cracks me up because they had no problems having a discussion with us. And I know so little German and I know even less Dutch. And that's a shame because everyone around the world seems to be able to speak American and we should know better.
And there's that old joke that, what do you call a person who speaks 2 languages?
Bilingual.
What do you call a person who speaks 3 languages?
Trilingual.
And what do you call a person who speaks 1 language? American. But they did not seem offended at speaking English to us.
No.
And us not speaking German or Dutch to them.
I think they felt happier that we could understand them.
Yes. Oh, I thought they spoke English very well.
Yeah, they did.
Very well. But they were hiking from place to place in
County Kerry.
Across County Kerry. It was interesting because they were older than us, and that seemed to be a thing in Ireland and in Europe in general, I think. Older people tend to stay much more active. They tend to hike and do things like that. More so, I think, than people here in the U.S. Don't you think?
I do.
Yeah. It was great. So
it was fun.
After breakfast, we were headed out to see more of the Ring of Kerry.
And we had to do something that I really, really hate to do.
And what do you think that was? Be sure and watch our next episode so you can find out. In the meantime, take a look at one of these videos, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.